The son becomes the father the son. This is all I can send you, Kal-El. It's not who I am underneath that defines me, but what I do. You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. Just because someone stumbles and loses their path doesn't mean they're lost forever. You're making me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I let my father die because I trusted him. Because he was convinced that I had to wait. That the world was not ready. What do you think?
What do you think? I don't know. Well, I think a lot. That's what am I think? I think that's one of my main problems is I think a lot. Welcome to Comics and Ramblings with Aru. This is just me, talking about comics, talking about toys, talking about TV, entertainment, the whole shebang. As someone who's been in this part of this sort of pop culture thing, since I was 11 or something, since I moved into New Zealand and had my first fell in love with 2000 AD with Tintin with Asterix, which I had never ever heard of before in my life until I came to New Zealand. And so since then, I've experienced the joys of being, the amazing creativity that's out there and the amazing stuff that, original creators of those things bring to us. As yesterday I talked about the race swapping of my one of my favorite characters, the Sentry. And of course, as I'm used to, and as anybody who's ever been into a comic shop as is used to, is that you like something, you don't like something, you discuss it, and you go away going, I wonder if he's right or if he's wrong, and think about it at night. So when I put out a thought saying, hey, I like to have my original characters be original, and I like to have my ethnic characters being promoted. Right, so if you've got a black Captain Marvel, put that out first, not about 5 years later or something. If the original Captain Marvel, right, and something like that. Or if you have a Black Panther, then you go and do Black Panther. If you have a Falcon, keep him as Falcon. Don't go and change him, give him like another mantle that's worn by somebody else, specifically a white character, because then you're diminishing the originality and the creativity that comes with Falcon, who I happen to have here, like a couple of them. Here we go. Let me just bring them over. Right. This is the way the original original Falcon looked. Got his eagle and everything on there. And it's just amazing, to see all this stuff out that was created by amazing talent back in the day that, for a very specific reason to promote actual ethnic inclusivity and diversity, real diversity and inclusivity, giving him his own characteristics, his own gimmick, his own costume, his own style, his own finesse, something that makes him him. Not go, okay, you know what, we'll just take him and now we'll make him into Captain America, because unless he's Captain America, nobody will like him. But the problem there is that we already love Falcon, right? Eagle wanted to go fly, right? So we already love Falcon. I mean, is it Roby? I can't remember. Or these guys, like, I've had too many head injuries to remember specific names and stuff. But so, we've got the other one down there, and he's got this new costume, and everything's beautiful about him because it's a great design. So why do you want to go and now he's Captain America? The problem now we have is people who we could kind of like talk with before in the past, like in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010. You could actually discuss these things and you go away wiser, and you go, okay, yeah, you're right or you're wrong, but that's okay. We can get along. Now it's like, well, you can't speak about it. If you do not like Captain, if you do not like Falcon to stay Falcon, well, then you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're homophobe, and you're misogynist or whatever they can come up with. which in itself is kind of like hiding behind, a costume of I am a better person because I accuse you of something that isn't real. Much like this lady here. I've talked about this with, let me find this share with with Nia DaCosta, right? I talked with this with a writer, um, amazing sci-fi writer, graphic novelist, creator, filmmaker, right? In the weekend on Sunday, Jeffrey Morris. The second time I actually talked to him, the first time we talked about his Kickstarter and his documentary. This time we spent actually about 45 minutes just on this topic of how condescending it is that if you are a failure at your job, only excuse you can make is accuse and blame other people. And you guys who watch that, like, it's really worthwhile watching. Jeffrey Morris is an amazing talent, and and by the way, he's a black dude, right? And so having the discussion, and it was like the first time we actually, really opened up, really talked, back to back about that subject. And I said to him, look, these guys, when they fail at their job, that's all they have to say for it. When I fail at my job, I own it, right? I talked about how Incredible, when I first put it out, it took me about, when I first wrote it, it was like about 2007 when I started it. 2011, I got some artwork done on it. And then I think last year we actually printed it as after the 2 issues were online, as a web comic on plungecomics.com, right? You go under like online comics or web comics on the button and you'll find it there. But so I put it out as a weekly comic, all right, a page a week kind of thing. And it works as a web comic because when people come to read a page of comic book, you want to keep them there for a bit, give them something more than just 1, 2, 3 sentences, right? Like they're doing Marvel Comics right now or DC Comics. Most of it's just, art and like a couple of sentences, and it's like that's your 15 minutes or 10 minutes of reading done. But when it comes to web comics, it's a bit like writing a TV show, like an 8 episode rather than a 2-hour movie. You got 8 hours to explain in-depth stuff about the characters and so on. So in the web comic, I was able to explain the background and the history of what happened to bring these orphans to become orphans, right? About the Ceausescu communism era, in Romania, how all these babies and young children lost their parents because of communism, right? Under like dictatorship of Ceausescu. I could tell you that in that webcomic, so there was a lot more information. Now, when I then went and did the same thing as a as a print comic, it kind of, I mean, it kind of didn't work the same way. It had too much words, I was like putting too much information, and as a page, and the comment came in, like, let me just put this away so you can see a bigger version. So you had like lots of words, right? And the artwork, I wasn't even happy with the artwork. But of course, I printed it thinking that, hey, it's going to sell. It's going to be great. I love this character. It's the original first attempt at myself making a superhero comic book for all ages. And I did it for my niece, right? So it was a family affair. My brother-in-law actually named the character. My niece kind of named it. And then like we finished it from Incredible Girl to Incredigle with my, with my brother-in-law coming in and saying that. So we ended up having a really cool looking cover by my amazing artist friend, Shane Evans, who's basically, who's doing a series called Chronicles of Wasteland, right? This is issue 1. He's got issue 2's coming, is already out. It's almost sold from what I hear. It's like almost sold, right? Numbers sold really well because everybody loved the first issue. And he's a great artist. And it's a great little book, right? And it's only in New Zealand, right? He only put it out in New Zealand, and it's almost sold out. And I'll just ask them to put to your site so I don't miss out. So, but then when I went and printed, I spent my own money, right? Nobody else's money, my own money, right? And then we went and sold it. We sold about 12 issues at the convention at Plunge last year. And I came away going, people were saying, hey, look, it's too many words. And then I looked at it again and said, like, yeah, even the art is not that great. I mean, it's my art. And it's like, how can I put this on the same shelf next to a Marvel or DC comic? Would I be proud to do that? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't be proud to do that. I had to question myself. So it was my failure, right? So I spent $500 on something that I believe is a failure. But of course, now, because it's the first time it went out, and it's the web comic, not the superhero comic that you see that's released with all the amazing art and the colors, everything. This now is a collector's item. So I've got something like about 40 or 50 of them left with the different one-off covers that I did. But I took the blame for that. I accepted it was my mistake. I should have really looked into it and really questioned everything about it. And should have went to my friends and said, what do you think? Is it going to work first? How is it? But, I didn't, because I felt that I'd worked so hard over 15 odd years on this book, and I finally wanted to get it out. We had good numbers on it for the webcomic. We had about 50 people, 45, 50 people every week reading the webcomic for the last 2 years. So that meant that every week somebody was there reading it. 40 people were coming up every time, every week. So I thought, yeah, okay, the numbers are there, but I decided, we took it to, because it was going to be on Kickstarter, right? And I pulled it off. Even though I printed it, I pulled it off. I said, no, I'm going to cancel this because I'm not happy. Now I'm going to go back to the start, rewrite the script, challenge myself, not really change what the story is about, but rewrite it where it's punchy, right? Like boom, boom, this happens, this happens, this happens. Give some expose, this happens. Introduce these characters, this happens. And as an origin, kind of like it was more like this is the character showing up for the first time. But what it meant was that you could still go onto the web, onto plungecomics.com, and you could go onto the webcomics button down, read the 2 issues that are already there. I don't remove that to hide what I'd read. It's still there. It's a hard work, We put a lot of work into it. Mike Burback from England, way back in 2011, 10, worked with me to do the anime style, manga style artwork on that. It's kind of like cartoony art style, right? And I appreciate that because we spent so much hard time working on that. However, when we started working with Kevin and Zimmerman, I loved his work, and straight away we hit it off, and we did great work on it. Then we had, the letter, the character designs, everything. I redesigned the costume with a friend, right? I went in and we just like, how cool would it, let's change it and update it a bit so that it's like more modern. So the story is a bit more modern. The character looks a bit more modern. The costume's a bit more modern, but we still have the same look, right? The colors are the same. You still have the beautiful red hair, because I love red hair. I think it's very unique, and there isn't that many people in the world with red hair. And so I thought that'll be cool. And if it was up to me, I would have at least every character, one of every character in any of my books with red hair. But that's overkill, right? But so I accepted the blame. I redid it. We went back to Kickstarter with a new comic book, with the new covers, with new colors, with Hugo Quinn. Did amazing work on it. And it's going to be sent out to everybody in February, right? Everybody that backed it, and then we'll release the next issue, and then we'll add. People can still buy the first issue if they want, right? If they realize that they missed out on the first issue, they can come back and get the first issue. But I accepted the blame, right, for my failure. However, I find it interesting that these people here who should accept blame for their destruction of these, these $100 million projects, right? 300, 250, 200 million, $150 million projects, don't want to accept that. See, at the end of the day, the fan and the customer is going to be always right. However, there's always going to be fans who shill, right, for people like this. They will always shill for the mega corporation that owes them absolutely nothing, but they want their money. See, here I am back in 2000 read the, the comics that I showed the other day, which I have, and paid, 2, 3 times the amount for the variant covers, and I'm looking forward. I mean, my price, once that Asian, when Stephen Ewan, that, in Thunderbolts comes out, and he's a new Sentry, my prizes for my comics and these toys will skyrocket. However, that doesn't make me happy, right? Just because they are now more valuable doesn't make me happy. It makes me feel sad because you didn't give me what you promised me. So it's a big, huge bait and switch, right? It's like telling me, here's meat, but then giving me beans, right? Mock meat, fake meat. I don't want fake Sentry. I want real Sentry. The Sentry I went and paid money to buy. The Sentry I invested my time and energy in, right? The Sentry I told people about in my store. I said, this is Sentry, right? Buy this comic, and then, you will learn about Sentry, this amazing character that they created, who they bait and switched, of course, about this whole thing. But that made it interesting, right? If you look at the history of Sentry, there's enough videos out there. You can just, I think What Mojo or something like that has it all. And there's enough people who have talked about Sentry for you to just, Google on, not Google, but just search on YouTube and find. I don't need to rehash that for you because, those guys have already spent the time doing that. But if I'm spending time and my hard-earned money, right, at a time when I had just gotten back into comics after a 5-year break of losing my first collection, right? My first run of mint collection X-Men, mint collection freaking X-Force, right? New Mutants, all those ones that are now worth thousands and thousands of dollars, all those comics that I lost my first collection. And then I come back and go in 2003, I decided, you know what? I miss comics. I'm going to go back into comics. I'd like to get back into reading what I've missed for the last half decade after getting over my sadness of having lost it all in the fire and having lost it, my favorite issues, like having lost the first appearance of freaking Deadpool, right? And then having to buy it over again. But, and it's like, and then being told now that you're a misogynist, you're a racist, because guess what? You don't accept an Asian person playing a white dude. It's just like this lady here pretend, she knows she's lying, right? She knows that none of the women went to see the Marvels. Like, can you imagine that females didn't even go to see the Marvels, right? Young girls that they're really propped up try to go, they didn't even go to see the Marvels. So why are the males always the targets of this sort of rhetoric, right? Or misogyny. What about misandry? Why aren't you calling all these women that didn't go to support your Marvels 3 woman-led film of 3 ethnic people, a black lady, a white lady, and a Pakistani, I guess. I'm not sure. She's Indian, and so, but they're not misandry. Misandry, if you don't know, that's the opposite of, that's a female version of misogynist. So how come they're not called racist and misandries for not supporting the Marvels, right? So why is it always the males that are target of this? But the worst thing is there are also males who actually target males who say, hey, I don't accept this. The time I've spent and energy and money, I don't accept you changing the character, right? Because it only goes one way, right? The replacement theory, right? So replace the white dude, right? Replace the white lady, so on. Replace the redhead, right? It's only that way. It's not the other way, right? So it's getting to a point where I just go, what is the point of you shilling for a multi-billion-dollar company who is using you to actually attack each other rather than ask, can we please have Stephen Ewan, an Asian Korean, Korean dude, American, whatever, play an Asian role that's already there in a character? Why is it so hard to accept that? I want that guy to play what that character is. But why is it so hard to accept that? I want Falcon to be Falcon. I don't want him to be Captain America because I like Falcon. He's got his own thing. Why does he have to swap his mantle, right? And so I find that really, sad, because in the old days we'd be, chewing, chewing this over and talking to each other in the comic books, stores. But now there's hardly any comic book stores because nobody buys comics in the mainstream anymore. Like even right? I stopped buying comics, and I went to like one a month, to a point where I'm like buying none a month now. I've got a delivery, I've got to collect soon, send off some money and say, hey, send us. I don't even want to spend $4 on a comic book, right? Just so I can get my parcel. But I'm like, I am going to, because that's the only way I can like get all my, my stuff couriered to me. I got to pay, $11 for the courier. I got to pay $4 for another comic. So that's $15, $18 out. So, however, the only thing that sells comics now is the covers, right? I'll go out of my way just to buy the cover, and then I'll shove it in a freaking plastic, right? So I'll shove it in a friggin', this is actually a good comic from the old days, which actually worked, right? Evangeline. Let me find something here. Gosh, there's a whole box of them. And let me see, right? So I will just buy, a comic for the gimmick it's inside, right? This black cover of, I think this is where, what's her name? They kill off the person that they just put in the movie, right? Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, right? And so that's the only reason I bought that, let me see what else we got here. I got a big game here. That's probably the only one that I actually invested any money in right now, because I heard it was going to be a good comic from people who actually read and query comics, right? So haven't even had time to read. However, I had, got messed up in my ordering, and so now I don't get issue 3. So I just said, you know what? Can't even be bothered getting 4 and 5 or look to get 3. I'll just stick with the number 1 and 2. Because at the end of the day, why should I go out of my way to spend money, right, on stuff I don't like, right? So I bought this just for the cover, right? Right, just for the cover. I thought it was a cool cover. That's all. Haven't read it. Don't probably won't read it. Don't care. However, back in the day, The Boys, right? The Boys was one thing back in like about 2007, 2008. A shopkeeper friend of mine introduced me to him in Auckland. It was called Gotham Comics at the time. He was a manager of it. Jeremy Bishop, amazing guy. He's done so much for New Zealand comics over the last 20 odd years, right? He now sells back issues, right? That's how bad the comic industry is everywhere, but in New Zealand, he sells back issues, right? So I'm able to get my boys' comics that I missed out on back issues off. And I'd rather invest in back issues that'll cost me about $20, $30 an issue or something, depending, than go and buy a modern so-called comic that's out right now. I'd rather spend 2 times the money on it than go and buy a brand new comic for $4. Do you understand? Right? So that's where I'm at with this. Like, I've got stuff that from 2000, right? Original from 2000s, right? And so I'm more interested in that, and then actually what is out here right now, right? Let me see what else. So here, bought this just for the cover, haven't even read it. It's a one shot, right? That's how much I love Batman, right? Everything behind me is Batman. This is all DC, but like if you look right up, it's all Batman related, all the way from there to there and behind me, right? There's so much here that I don't even have space to put around. There's Funko Pops, there's all these things. I haven't even counted how many there are, or how many Batmans I have, which is kind of weird, because like I think I'm gonna have to go and do that sometime. But when you invest your time and effort into something you love, you expect it to, expect the people who make it to fulfill their side of the thing, right? Their side of the partnership. if I'm going to invest in something, I want to get what I expected to get, right? If I pay for something, I expect it, if I buy a Batman comic, I expect a good story, right? But now, like I said, I like the covers, and so I'll spend in the covers. That's the only reason. But on top of that, now the set, I just don't even bother, buying comics altogether. This is someone who spent 35 years spending about $50 odd a week on comics, right? This is from the 90s when I and then took a 5-year break and in between that time, and then back in 2000 for the last 20 odd years, 30 to 40, $50 a week kind of thing on comics. But now I don't. So, however, I've put that money into something else. Toys, right? In the original characters, not the race swap characters, not the silliness of it all, but actual toys, of those original characters. So you got Hawkeye here, right? Select, and it's got a diorama and everything. It looks really cool. I bought this in May, right? And I had my uncle who lives in Auckland pick it up from, Black Widow, Redhead, right? My uncle go and pick it up. He lives in Auckland, from the seller. Bought it on Trade Me. I don't even remember how much it cost. And because he was going to, buy it he was going to pick it up for me, I thought I'll get more, right? Because then I could save on freight. And so, I got all of these because I know I will get the enjoyment I can get from this by spending $30 odd on this than on a comic book. 3 comic books, right? That's what it's come down to now. I'd rather spend $30 on a toy that just sits there and looks cool, if I want to pose it as something, than on a comic book that I can read that I will probably find myself being called a racist or misogynist or a homophobe. So I'd rather put my money where I get something out of it and I feel good afterwards. And I've mentioned this before. It's nothing new that I haven't mentioned before. I want to feel good when I come to entertainment, when I come to pop culture, when I go and see a movie, when I go and see a TV show. I want to feel good when I come out of it. I want to think about things in it, and I want to think about, did I get my money's worth? And was I entertained? Was the person who was telling the story got his message across? The cultures that were represented, they represented well, right? Recently, I saw what was it? I just saw. Yeah, The Creator, right? The Creator. Every white dude, apart from one person, I think it was in there, was evil, bad, right? And everybody was going how amazing The Creator was, right? And how cool it looked, and it was amazing. It looked cool. The robots, I love robots. I've just put out a comic book, finished a comic book called Robot Nation. That's how much I love robots, right? And the idea behind AI and stuff. I think of myself, as a futurist. I always question, what would the future be like if there were robots there? What is the end result of all this, right? So I love the idea and the concept, the artwork, the technology, everything behind the Creator, except it was boring as hell. It was like one of the most boring movies around, with lots of bangs and smashes and all this and technology. The Creator didn't pull me in. It made me hate humanity, which meant I'm human, so I hate myself, right? And then it made me hate white people, because all the white people, apart from a friend, right, is all evil people in it, are the villains, right? The female white person's a villain. White male is a villain. White leaders are villains, right? All the extra white people are villains. And it's like, and then also they went out hard out anti-American. What's new, right? It's like you're telling the same crappy stories that every other thing is telling me on TV, on the everywhere right now. I thought, well, what would be really cool? What if it was Asia attacking America, and America is the one in love with AIs? Now that's an interesting story, because now you've turned it on the head. It's not the obvious telling of the story, because you, as a writer and as someone who spent 3 years of my life learning how to be a writer, and I have a degree, a bachelor's degree, right? As a writer, as a film writer, right? Which now I brought to, of course, to, I was writing even before I went to do my degree, for stage, right? I was writing for stage, doing feature presentations, acting in it, acting in other people's stage productions, and also, doing skits, like 5 minute, like writing 5 minute skits, and then writing a feature skit, right? My first feature, production was a sci-fi one on a planet. So we had a stage, had to design all the costumes, had to design the production set, had to design the language of how people speak, and the lighting and everything. Boom, it was amazing. And I had a great cast, had a great, you know, uh, talent, you know, amateur talent behind it. So I love sci-fi, and so I've always loved sci-fi since I came to New Zealand and watched Star Trek and all that. You could probably see there's somewhere over here is like a bunch of Star Trek thing, and there's a whole friggin' display unit here, all right, same size as this one here, full of Star Trek uh, ships and everything. So I love, so I was really looking forward to, the, let me find it here, the creator, right? So I thought that why then, after watching the creator, I feel like so hollow and empty, you know, after watching this very colorful, uh, you know, colorful, interesting looking show that they had spent so much money on. And let me just bring this up here, and we can have look at it in the background while we think. So you don't have to look at my face continuously. All right. So here we go. Pop it up. Right. So it looks really cool. It's like, well, it's a very good looking. Everything about it is really cool. But it's like it's an anti-American, anti-white film about the future, right? And it's just like it's like Gareth Edwards, right? Who's a director, decided, you know what? How about we make Vietnam a movie about Vietnam, but we put robots and AI into it, and we make Asians the victims, and people who love AI as the victims, and not worry about how you know they're the evil things are, the robots who are battling humanity for survival are not the bad guys. It's actually the humans are the bad guys who are trying to survive this new evolution that they actually created, right? I mean, I don't want you know, um, always like anti AI, um, anti AI, stories. I don't want anti robot stories, because I love nuances, right? I've got a story coming that I'm writing for the second volume of Robot Nation, where it's more about how what how good that could be for us, humanity. And like, you look at the idea behind one of my favorite shows, like anime, manga, whatever, movie, is Ghost in the Shell, right? And the idea behind it, you could like live forever if your brain is scanned and is placed inside a robot. But then the question is, do you want to live forever? How miserable could it be if you could live forever? Like, could because then you could do whatever and nothing matters. What makes our life, what makes humanity exciting, is that there's a limit to our existence. That so when you get shown stuff that is like, where, let me find something here. We stop on this really cool looking, you know uh So yeah. So when you, and I lost my train of thought. Apologies for that. But so I love technology. I'm someone who like enjoys technical stuff. Like I mean, I appreciate it. Um, I think it's just my brain the way I work, right? I like pulling things apart when I was a kid, so I was pull about everything. How does this work? How does that work? But but now I get the amazing job of writing speculative fiction. You get to write about what the future could hold for us as humanity. We talk about how I could save so much time if I put all my, you know, thousands of pages of stories and novels and scripts and ideas into an AI program, and I could say, write a story with this plot line, right? Write a story where this happens, this happens, this happens, and at the end this happens, and then in the middle this happens, and these are the characters. And knowing the AI, knowing my nuances, my style of writing, the way I like to my characters behave, or or how I like to let my characters write themselves. A lot of times I don't guide my characters. Like I kind of like an outline, but if I have a certain character, I don't try to bound it into like this is the message I want you to tell. I just let it do its thing. I know, like if you're not a writer, you might not understand that part of things, but there is this thing when you sit down to write, you go, all right, so James is going to do this. Now let James run for it. Right. So you put James in a situation and James will talk to Maria. Maria will say this. James will go, what is James's response? Not what is my response to that? What would James, as a 40-year-old or 30-year-old guy who was trying to protect Maria, would say in this instance? Is he going to go, it's all right, babe, I'm here, I'm a man, I'll sort it out? Or he's going to say, hun, I understand where we are, what the situation is, but you got to listen to me, and this is going to happen. I don't place myself inside that character. I let the character do its thing. And this is the cool thing about being a writer, which is why I get upset when I feel cheated by race swapping. I feel that race swapping is cheating to advance a ethnicity over another ethnicity without actually giving me any reason why, right? So when you get something like, sorry to hop on, but if you get something like a Century with his own nuances, his own mental health issues, his own, there's so much to the Century, and how the things, and of course his mentor and so on, as to why that character is the way that character was at the time that character was created. So it's got all that little things that happens, right? Like why was he created in the 2000s at that time and became so popular that it had his own figure, right? And so, but why don't we get characters who are already ethnic, who are already like Forge, right? One of my favorite all-time X-Men characters, a native Indian, right? Why isn't he being brought into the X-Men yet, right? Because I reckon they're going to bring in some other character that's already established that is white, and they'll call him Forge, because that's the only way. That's the only way they can do things now, rather than actually have Forge be Forge as a Native American, as the guy who created Cerebro, the computer, right? The X-Men computer, the big, huge mutant finding thing, and their technology. Why don't we have Forge already here, right? They talk about the Cerebro and all this thing, but they've never brought him in, even as a little side character. It's like, well, this is him. Why not? Because the only way they see that he would make mean anything is he's somebody else. But he'll be an Indian, but playing another role, right? Because that's a shortcut. That's the cheat that they have now. Why can't we have Forge as an amazing character right now coming into X-Men? Because that would take too much thinking for these Hollywood types to understand that people actually want that. We want authenticity when it comes to storytelling. You know, when I was writing The Trouble with Bobo, right, which is set, you know, which is I actually swapped it around. It was going to be the second story in Robot Nation Volume #1, but it's the first story now because my writer friend Michael Berteur last Friday on live stream said, you know, I think you should put that story first. And I said, well, but like it's a title story. I should have the Robot Nation be in the first. He goes, no, you know, and so overnight, I'd already done the book. Overnight, I went back the next day and I swapped it. I swapped the stories around because there's no double pages in the story, so it was easy to switch it around. Yeah, thanks. Cheers, Maxillian. Yeah, I think. Yeah, so I wrote. I then like I said, I thought overnight. I said, yeah, you know, Mike's right. Mike is a writer. He's an established award-winning horror writer, all right? And he also writes sci-fi. And so I thought, I'll give it a go, right? And also one of my other friends, Rico, right, who we have on our Friday night show, he said, you know, dude, that panel looks like this, that looks like Maria in this panel. And it doesn't, you know, kind of like might make people think something else, right? So I said, well, you know what, I will change it. So I actually went and put an extra, I said, oh, this is somewhere else, so people don't get confused. Because when it comes out, I don't want people to get confused from my story. I want people to read it well and enjoy it because I put time and effort in it. And my artist worked really hard on it to do a really cool book. So, you know, so, you know, when you come to read it, I want you to enjoy it for what it is. So in time, when you like this, when you fall in love with these characters, you go, oh yeah, you know, if we expand on those stories on some other level, some in the future, sometime, you know, whenever, because these are self-contained short stories, so you don't even have to read anything else to enjoy it. Hey, Larry, what's up, brother? So, you know, so when you come to read The Trouble with Bobo, you find out about those characters and you find out who they are as a family. See, I'm not going to have, you know, some weirdness happening with these characters. I want you to enjoy it and go away enjoying it. I don't want you to come back and go, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? I want you to just enjoy the story. And if you enjoy it, then I want you to talk about it. I want you to share it. I want you to be able to say, hey, look, this was a good read. I appreciate the effort you put in. Or you can say, well, yeah, you know, I wish you'd changed this and stuff, right? Yeah, and this is yeah, that's exactly it, right? I'm the same, right? I would like to see Marvel and DC, Rexillian writes here, come out with completely new stories, narrative accepted, removed from their shared universe. Novelty is incredibly important in pop culture. Exactly. You know, I want uniqueness. I don't want race baiting. I don't want what is it? Gay switching? No, it's gay pandering or gay baiting, right? I don't want that in my stories. If the character is gay, then have him as gay, which is why I'm looking forward to the Midnighter and Apollo, right? And Authority. I think I had Authority here. I pulled it out the other day, right here. This is why I'm looking forward to this, right? This coming out as a and the new DC thing. However, nobody apart from people who read this Wildstorm series, right, will understand, right, or will know who these characters are, right? What they could have done was put and that is unique, right? What they should have done was put a animated movie, right, about Wildstorm, because if you remember a couple of years back, maybe 5 years ago, DC tried to bring Wildstorm in. It didn't work because it's opposite to what's happening in DC Comics. It's exactly the same thing. Same reason why. Where are we? Where'd you go, buddy? Um, so many comics in so many places here. Hold on. Oh, there you are. Right. That's the same reason why this doesn't work, right? This didn't work in DC because it's the opposite of what DC is doing. DC is a PG company, right? Teen plus PG company. So when you talk about hamsters, you know, into hamsters going into somebody's stuff, then kids who are reading it is going to go, ew, I don't like DC Comics anymore. So after the 6 issues, they kicked this book out. And of course, they went to Dynamite, and history, right? Did really well at Dynamite, did amazing stuff at Dynamite, right? And gangbusters to a TV show, played by my, Judge Dredd, right? The best, greatest Judge Dredd in history, right? Carl Urban, our very own Carl Urban, right? And, the fact that, Carl Urban's in there, is a huge thing for us Kiwis, right? I was watching Jay White, Larry would know that Jay White is a New Zealand wrestler on AEW. And I remember who's in WWE who's a female wrestler. I wonder if you're still watching. Naomi, but yeah. So whenever we New Zealanders see our people become famous, we celebrate that because we're a very small country, 5 million people, give or take. And so when we see success, we want to enjoy the success, celebrate the success. And so for us to see that, it's really cool. And so for me to see Carl Urban and being, Butcher, right? I have the Butcher Funkos and all that, and also, Huey and so on, and Frenchie, I think. But it's really, it's really cool. And I like, but it's not making me see the TV series. I know everybody hands down has told me it's great. But I love the comics too much to have anything in my brain go, they shouldn't have done that. Oh, they shouldn't do that. Because I know in the comics I have this. So I can go from there. So let's have a look at this. Rexelian says, I would like to see, yep, we did that one. Let's go for the next one. Right. Stories with conventional story structure, stories that actually have an and don't just ran on for 60 years. And that's why manga works. Right. And that's why TV shows work. There's an and inside. Right. That's why movies work. Right. Because you have a finite amount of time you can tell. That's why when I'm writing Incredible, I'm doing 6 issues. Right. I'm putting all I can in there. And then after that, if it works, then what I'll do is I'll go, you know what? People like this, I'll do another story. But I also have other stories to tell as part of the universe. I have a Red Dot, a vigilante that's part of the Plunge universe. I have the Templeton twins who make their appearance in the first issue. And probably, I don't know if they're going to appear again or not, but that's introducing magic, right? I'm introducing cyber people. I'm introducing superhero powered people. I'm introducing magical people in the supernatural, right? And because we, we're not going to be around for 100 years or something, so the thing is we want to get to the end of a story. You want to end and done, right? Like say one and done kind of thing. I want a finite story about this, and then I can move on to the next one. So I watch a lot of anime, like tons of anime. I think the last 2 days the only time I ever actually spent a day watching anime, but I watch cartoons, right? Animation. Because I know that I can watch a 12 episode anime and it will start from one story and it'll end. That story arc will end. And then 6 months down the road, when the writer has finished the second arc, then it'll come and I'm ready for that second arc, right? And then also, you've got something like, One Piece, which is it still has the arcs, right? They still have the arcs. So you can actually enjoy that. You can sit down and watch that and go, okay, yeah, I've had my fun. I'm going to go watch something else now. However, something like, like what they're going to do with Joker, right? They're going to tell you Joker's story. The mystery of the Joker is going to be explained away in 2022, 24. Next February, January, I just saw something about it from Thinking Critical, that they are going to tell explain away the mystery of the Joker. So one of the things that I want to do for the Plunge universe is never explain the mystery of one of the characters, right? One of the main characters. I wanted to just keep the origin mysterious. Tell you bit of pieces here and there, because is he or isn't he, is she or isn't she? Because at least there's some mystery to it. Because why else would you want to read something if there is nothing enticing about it? If you explain away everything, you get bored, right? So Rexilin says here, imagine Marvel and DC and all their resources and talent adapt a creative policy like Image, trying out new properties and genres. It might just save the industry. 100%, dude. But I'm going to say, well, screw Marvel DC, right? They've burned their fans, right? They've literally burned interest in their product. So like this, by people like this, right? I should have put that a bit different. Like this. They've got people like this working for them, right? So if you got people like this working for them, every time they fail, they burn the audience. They burn the fans. They burn the ones that might give them a chance. So I go, well, burn them back. Don't waste your money on them. Don't waste your time watching it. Turn to indie comics, right? Give us a chance. Give my bro a chance. Give my friends a chance. Give Niobe, right? We had Niobe turn up just before. Give him a chance, right? Where did I just have the book here? Like when my friend's comic, this one here, when this comes out, right? Give him a chance because he's not trying to burn you, right? Shane isn't trying to burn you on this book. He wants you to read the book. If you like it, buy the next one. Tell people about it. That's all we ask of you in comic, fandom, right? As a reader, as a fan of comics, of this medium, this sequential art, right? That's all we ask. Give us a try. Because at the end of the day, we are trying not to burn you. You won't have us say these horrible things about you as a fan. We won't call you violent and racist and sexist and homophobic. We won't, because that does us nothing for us. That doesn't make you like us. That doesn't make you enjoy what we're doing, because then it comes to the part where you got to separate the art from the artist. But I don't want that. I want you to enjoy what I write and come back for my next book and come back for my next book and come and support my artists, support their work. Because if I don't do good stuff, if I don't spend all my energy in promoting my artists and promoting our books and asking you to support it, then I'm not supportive of my own work. And I'm not, I want you to enjoy what I write, what I create. When I say I made a mistake and now I've corrected my mistake, I want you to understand why I'm created, why I fixed the mistake I made, why I accepted responsibility for the mistake I made. With like I said about with the Incredible, putting out a web comic instead of actually putting out a proper, full color, decent superhero comic first, rather than putting out the web comic first and wasting money on it in print. So, I'm not going to race change my characters because I already have characters of those races, right? I already have an Indian character. I already have an Asian character. I already have a white character. I already have, whatever character that story called for, I already have it. So I want you to enjoy what we bring to the table as an independent creator. It's tough for us, right? because not when 99% of the money is going to people like this, right, who hate fans, right, who despise the very people that they want to buy their product, I'd rather say, well, don't go to them, right? Yeah, you're right. Like, it's pretty basic, right? Don't insult your audience. You're going to have a bad time. 100%. 100%. And that's what you got. $300 million lost minimum on this project. Man, I can't imagine what I would be able to just with 1 million. Every project I have right now that's sitting on my desktop, every single file I'll be able to have made. I'll be able to afford top level comic book artists and creators. Not that we don't have that, but I would have top level artists and creators right now working on that. And all my creators right now will be fully paid up front. I would dominate the market right now if I had not even a million, 250,000 right now. I'll be able to just boom every product. You'd have an incredible you'd have an incredible figurine, right? Action figure. You'd be like boom, 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 boom. And you know what? It'll all triple its return. Because I'll be here going, I want your custom. I want your support. You won't hear me call you names. You won't hear me put you down. If you have a different opinion, you're entitled to it because that's your opinion, just like it's my opinion, whatever. So resilience, it's appreciated because we are the ones who are going to spend money on this, and I want to make money, right? I want to sell the work that I've created and I've spent creating with my friends on these works, with my artists, with my colorists, with my penciler, right? With my publisher, with my print, because when I put one comic out, when one comic goes out, there are so many people involved and so many people earn a living off a single comic book, right? You've got a writer, if it's successful, right? You got a writer, you got an artist, you've got a penciler, inker, depending if you have the same person. You got a designer, I design all my work, right? And a letterer, I letter all my work. Then you got a colorist. So on a single issue of Incredible, right? You have me, you have Kevin, you have Hugo. So Kevin's from America, Hugo's from Mexico. Then you have Hawk, who ran our, who did put together our crowdfunding project. I mean, I helped with that and we promoted all that together, but he did a lot of the behind the work scenes, right? But also he put together the package to go to by the package, I mean, like he got all the printers from New York, from overseas, from China, whatever, to try to get a good deal on the book so we could afford to actually put out a book that we only made $1,800 on, right? Is it 1,800? Yeah, 118 US, $1,180 in US, right? Which doesn't even cover the art, right? Doesn't even cover my own, just covers the printing of that, right? So the time we spent on this book was an entire year, months and months on a single book. So that's four people involved in the creation of it, right? And promotion and all that. However, then you got the printers, right? They print a book, then they earn a bit of it, right? They get their wages paid from that, right? Then the shipping people, right? We ship it out, the postie gets the money from it, right? And so on. So when we put one comic out, we put so much effort into it because we want it to be successful. We want people to enjoy it and read it, right? Just like, anybody else out here in the indie comic scene. That's why I spend a lot of time, promoting indie comics, because I know how much time and effort it takes for any one of us out here to create a single comic book, right? How hard it is to compete with people like Marvel and DC, who have a multi-billion-dollar economy behind them, right? But we don't have that. It's just us on our own trying to get a book out. So that's why we appreciate whatever time anybody shares what we do out there. Anybody who likes or subscribes or whatever to our, to what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, we are actually helping the economy that's around what we're doing. I mean, I don't think I'm going to make anything off this project, right? We put out, and I don't, because I want the artist to, to get as much out of it, because at the end of the day, I just want my stories told. And because those stories mean so much to me, I don't want to turn around and abuse and hassle the reader if they have a different opinion about it. I'm just going to say, okay, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I tried to do, we worked really hard on the project. Hopefully we get you in the next round, right? So at the end of the day, just like anybody that's putting anything out there, we work hard on it. Indie creators put so much time and effort because it's do or die on every book we put out. Because, for Incredible, it took me 15 odd years to get to Incredible, right? To get this book to crowdfunding, to a level where I could say, this is a great book. I stand behind it 150%, right? 1,000% on how good this book is, right? That I can say, yes, this book is of the highest caliber that we could put out, right? That this book is the best thing, cover A's by the artist, and you could like look at this book and be, okay, yeah, it's a great book. The colors are amazing. Everything works, right? And it's a quality. And I can put it right up there next to Big Game, right? Very high marks. Next to Big Game and go, here's Incredible right next to each other. And I'd be proud to say it's just as good, right? Even though I love, Mark Miller's amazing, right? I've got like a lot of his books, hardcovers, trade paperbacks, variant covers, single issue. But at the end of the day, I'm working just as hard as anybody out there to create a good product. Now, let's talk about some really cool things that you guys can get really cheap right now, right? If you're overseas or if you're in New Zealand, right? Pop down to your toy store. If you're a diehard fan from the 80s of Dungeons and Dragons, these things in New Zealand, they're at $44, right? However, last week I went down, of course it says half price. However, it was $15. New Zealand, $15. It was like another $9 off. Yeah, right? My maths is probably off. But it was like another, down from $22 to $15, so another $7 off. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy the whole set. However, there was only these two, so I ended up only getting these two, and that kind of sucked because I would have loved to have the whole set. So instead of that, I ended up he's Quicksilver's over there, sorry, but I ended up going to another store, and I ended up buying this half price again, right? But then, right, what's the normal price on this? $45. Normal price for this is $44. However, it was down to $25, right? You can see that. Oops. It's down to $25. But then I took it to the counter. Now it's $18. So this is what happens when the market is saturated with product that people don't like anymore. Right? Why is this $18 down from $44 New Zealand? Right? Brand new, by the way, because they replaced him with a female character, Hawkeye. And they call it the Hawkeye as well. It's like calling Wolverine, right? Even though she's female now and a young kid. So the market decides value, right? The person who's got the money in the wallet decides the value, right? So $44 is now $18, right? And the other thing is it's basically it's now just taking up space on the toy store, and so nobody, they had the entire set of this and it wasn't selling, right? And I said, well, what's going on? Why is this cheap? I said, oh, these are characters nobody wants. You get it? The market decided nobody wants. The market decided that they don't want this character. The market also decided they don't want this character. That's how the guy told me. The retailer tells me the white dude, this character, whatever his name is, Hank, is not wanted, right? And also Diana is not wanted by the consumers, right? People who love D&D. I'm not a D&D fan, right? I bought it because it's part of history for me, for animation and stuff, and because D&D, and also because I'm doing it. I've got a game, like a board game that I want to do called Zeolandia, which is like comics, and then you read the comics, and then all the characters about all the personalities and stuff, and then it crosses over into a board game. So when you play a board game, you already know the characters, about the characters. So that's something I've got planned under 5 to 10 years in the future. So for me, that's why Dungeons and Dragons is interesting, right? Because these are like characters like that, and it's fantasy, right? For my jam is basically sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, right? So anything to do with that, I'm getting, right? Like this, same reason I would get, a Dracula, Transformer toy, because it's got horror and it's got Transformers, because it's part of my, history. VHSs, I used to cut up and splice together VHS tapes to do editing. So it's something like that, right? So it's really, you see all these videos online, and I think Pros and Cons does it. I'm not sure who, but they play, they go into the Walmarts and get all these big, clearance stores in America. I wish we had them here, because it'll destroy our friggin' toy industry. To have any single one of those stores here in New Zealand, it'll destroy the entire economy in that city that to do with toys, because we couldn't, none of our retailers could compete. And that is what is destroying the comic shops and who are selling toys in America right now. We do a Saturday show, midday show here in New Zealand. It's about 7 o'clock over in America, where we talk about the toy industry, right? This week, last weekend we were supposed to, but it's going to be this weekend. We're going to talk about Conan, right? And about how Robert E. Howard created Conan. And I used to collect these when I was a kid and read every single one of them when I was in my teens, like 13, 14-year-old, right? 15-year-old, 16-year-old. I used to go find them everywhere. I mean, not find them, hunt them down in every op shop and secondhand store across New Zealand. Whenever I saw a store in any town we visited or city, I'd look for the secondhand store so I could just look for these books. And I've been trying to get back all the books I used to have, because, like I said, I lost them, right? A few years back, about 2 decades back or 3 decades back, 90s. So I've been trying to get my Conan books again, right? All the different writers wrote them. Robert Jordan, Howard, Sprague, Lee Sprague, and of course, Lynn Carter, right? All these guys. So Conan's one of my favorite characters. Last year I had a hard time because I bought a CGC graded Conan, King Conan #1. I bought it as a gift for a friend, right? And I was like debating with myself that should I or shouldn't I? And I thought at the end of the day, I said, you bought it for a gift, you give it as a gift, right? But I can always buy myself another one of those, but I'm not really, interested in that. But I do want a Conan action figure. That's my that's something I'm planning to get next, because I got all these other ones, right? Like I mentioned earlier, that I got these ones here, Amazing Hawkeye, and I'd forgotten I bought a Hawkeye already. That's why when I got this one here, just on Monday, right? Was it yesterday? No, on Friday. When I got this on Friday, I'd forgotten I had already got this one, but I don't mind because I like Hawkeye, right? Um, but yeah, I bought this in May, but it was sitting at one of my sister's house for a couple of months, and before that, it was sitting in my uncle's house, who actually picked it up for me. So it's and we're going to open that on Saturday on our on our toy show. So at the end of the day, the market decides and the fans decide what is of value and what isn't. However, the indie comics people work, I reckon, way harder on their one comic than the mainstream DC Marvel comic people do, because that's it for us. Every time we put one comic out, we put everything into it, because we know there's no fall. If that doesn't succeed, we won't be able to. It'll be a long time before we can put it back out again. That means we got to really try. It's like we don't have the money to just keep, throwing stuff at the wall, and it's tough for us. Whereas if you got like a friggin' $1 billion, company like Marvel or DC, if you have a lot, if a comic sucks, you can just go do another one. Right? There's about 10 other people ready to do that. Go and do another Superman or another Batman comic. With us, that means we got to wait to earn some money, try to find the artist again and try to put all that effort into it. Whereas they've got about 20, 30 people or 100, 200 people ready to just do one, right? However, so we get it's harder for us to get a comic out there than it is for, anytime a big company like the 5-tier companies do, right? But so when you support us, it means more to us than anything in the world to actually have somebody go, hey, we're going to put our money behind you. But I've talked enough, right? But do join us on Saturday midday when I hang out with my good friend Stu, who owns a comics, who owns a. Let me play this little thing. Who owns a store in Texas, and we do a show every Saturday. Just have a look at this ad that he did, and then we'll come back to it in a bit.
1.21 gigawatts. 1.21 gigawatts. That is the name of my store. It's also the amount of electricity needed for time travel. And that's how you're going to feel when you step into my store. You're going to feel like you step back into 1985. My store is all about the comics, toys, and nostalgia. If you have that nostalgia itch that needs to be scratched, come to my store. It's on 601 North Main Street, Borger, Texas. Again, I am 1.21 gigawatts, comics, toys, and nostalgia. The greatest toy and comic shop in a 50-mile radius in the great panhandle of this great state of Texas.
1.21. Yeah, so, he's very knowledgeable about toys and stuff. So, we get to talk about that. But we also get to, open all these toys, talk about that. Like I said, I'm going to be opening these up, see what the quality of these are like. And the other reason why people aren't buying this, right? Why aren't people buying Dungeons & Dragons toys? What is about this that they felt like, they don't want to put their money behind? Like I said, at the end of the day, the customer decides what's valuable and what's not. Why? Because here's the thing. Right now, it is really, really expensive just to afford food, let alone entertainment. Going to the movies is a plus. Buying a comic book is a plus. Buying a toy, buying any form of entertainment is like a plus. Everything costs so much more now. Food has doubled in price. Like some things have tripled, right? I mean, I went to buy a pumpkin last week. right? A half a friggin' pumpkin, which just last year was $3. Now it is $9 for a friggin' half a pumpkin. This is a regular pumpkin, not something specialty, but I mentioned that yesterday, right? So when you've got everything costing so much, when you spend any money on anything like an indie comic, it means that you've gone out of your way to weigh up whether there's any value to it. So that's why we want to make sure it's value. And I think anybody who's out here in the indie comics industry, or even in the movies, right, or indie creator, indie musician, right, painter, or whatever, anyone you support in the indie scene, independent scene, right, they value your commerce, right, your custom, your backing of their product. Because at the end of the day, they know themselves how hard it is. I know how hard it is, to buy, to afford certain things, luxuries. I got to friggin' weigh up if I can buy this week, or do I have to put it up for another couple of weeks? Do I have to save up for it? That's why, like, I don't buy anything. Like, I can't even, I don't buy toys brand new, right? I got to wait for it if it's on special. That's why you see me buying toys, but you also see me buying you on special. I want them, but I can't afford the full dollar because nobody can afford the full dollar now, right? Unless you're a friggin' millionaire or something, or if you're like really rich, right? But not many of us are. And especially, I don't know that many indie creators who are actually rich, right? Who can actually just go and put out a comic and not worry about it failing. However, for us, we're weighing up everything. So, whether it's going to work for us, if it isn't, if it's valuable or not. So when you see, my comic out there, when you see Incredigirl next year go in the shops, or if you see it online on, on Risers and Comics, or if you see it on our website, right, anywhere, and if you decide to pick it up, right, that means so much to me, because even now, like, I wish I could put this out for sale right now, but I have to honor the crowdfunding thing, right? Because even though this book is already ready, and as if the printer is going to print it, I can't sell this comic book direct to customer right now, because I have to honor the contract I have with my backers, that they all get it first before anybody else gets it. So that means until February next year, until these books get sent out to the customer, I can't be out here saying, hey, now you can buy the PDF copy, or if we get the support from the, like, say about 100 PDFs were sold, it will take that money from that and we'll print some more, like print another 10, 20, 30, whatever physical copies, and then sell those. We can't do that until we honor, the customers, the backers from Kickstarter that backed us. Until that is fulfilled, we're basically in limbo, trying to sell more copies of this. And that's because that's a contract we made. That's the word we gave, right, to the backers. You get it first before anybody else, right? So that's, but then when we put out the second issue, we can always sell the first issue, and say, hey, check this out, But, because I'm proud of this. I know everybody that has worked on this book is very proud of this, right? We worked really hard on this book, right? It's one of the, I think it's one of my favorite comics right now, because it's full on, full color, right? Full color. It's our first full color, top grade, right? And I mean, top grade comic book, because when you've spent 30 plus years, right, reading comic books, you can tell what's quality and what's not. So you work hard at putting out quality. It's just the same thing I'm doing with, like, with our Robot Nation comic book, which I'm still waiting right now, trying to, for the second time, to have, where are we? To get this campaign approved. And this is where I'll finish off, right? So where we get this campaign approved so we can put it out before Christmas. However, I think, it is doubtful now that we'll be able to put this out into people's hands by Christmas, right? And it's, like I said again, it's the best black and white sci-fi horror comic you will read right now, right? Because I worked really hard on it. I rewrote it when the artwork even came back to me. That's how hard. And I re-edited it even after we put out a review comic, so that it'll be, that you as a reader, or as as someone who's going to back it, hopefully, you will be proud that it's of the quality of the book. And then next year, when we put it out as a print copy, I'll be able to say I put the best work out with my artist on this, with 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 uh with, with Hugo Aquino, with his color work on the cover, with my design work, and with friggin' amazing art from Italian artist Francesco Conti, right? It's the best black and art work that I can think of that you would be able to get. The quality that we can produce, it's awesome. And I don't, I can't wait for it to be out there, and I can't wait for next year when we put a print comic out with the posters and what else. And I've been thinking about a variant cover and what I want. And I'm thinking of having a robot on a kind of like an X cross, because it's kind of like a homage to the Wolverine 181, I think it was, which is my favorite X-Men cover of all time, where he's on the X cross and he's like this on it. It's a purple green cover, if I remember right, but it's one of my favorites. I've got it somewhere. I used to own the original, like the first print release. And then last year or so, I went and had to rebuy it because, like I said, I lost about thousands of dollars of comics quite a few years back. I think it was in the mid-90s. But yeah, Robot Nation is amazing. It's such good quality. There's just a panel here from it, a single tiny little panel from that. These are like the panels from it, but this is the full pages. This is the Trouble with Bobo. You got amazing, artwork. It's just brilliant artwork. I kept it short, because it's 2 short stories. It's black and white. The art is just amazing. And, we worked really hard on the cover. Hugo and I designed a cover. I designed basically the entire book, and everything from the lettering to the way it looks. Everything that is in there, apart from the artwork itself, and sometimes I even do the coloring, is designed by me. The way everything's on that cover is designed by me, because I get inks from Francisco, and then I send the inks over to Hugo, who then does the artwork, the colors it in, and then I go and put that on the cover and decide what cover we should have, right? Because I've got a couple of variant covers we could come in. That's really cool. But yeah, Incredible. Robot Nation is amazing. As our second book out on crowdfunding, it's going to be freaking brilliant. The quality, I just love the artwork in this. I love what Bobo, this character, I think is Bobo, this character here looks like, right? Because the artwork is just brilliant, how awesome she looks, what he's done with her, and then the colors that Hugo's brought to it. And because we wanted very simple colors, I really wanted I think it was, I can't remember, this Italian or French artist, but I'll let you guys know when we do the next time we talk about this. But it's great. It was very simple color tones, and I really wanted this comic. If we decide to go color when we go to print, that's how it'll look, right? This look very simplistic looking, low tier tones, because we want the art to be the most important thing about this, and the story, of course, But 2 short stories, Robot Nation 12 pages, The Trouble with Bobo 16 pages. So it's a 28-page comic book for $5 digital, right? And is it American? Yeah, I think it's American. I don't know. But I mean, like I said, it's just us working on it, right? And it's, and it takes a lot of time to do this. I think it's taken us about 6 months to a year just to finish this one comic book off. So you imagine how much time is, back and forth we've been on, like working hours and hours and hours, 1,000+ hours, I'm sure, because I go every minute little detail. I'm like making sure it's right over and over and over. So we spent a lot of time on this. So yeah, that's it for today. We'll hopefully, I'm not sure if I've got another live stream coming up, but do join us on Friday. Friday, we're going to be talking about the indie convention circuit in New Zealand. We've got a couple indie convention event runners who are going to be talking about, why they decide to put all their time and effort into doing these little conventions and events. What you can find at them and how they work. Everything that, from our mouth to yours, right? Because it's just one time we're going to concentrate just on the events. Because as you know, like I've run my own events for past 5 years, and so we can, anybody who's wanting to learn about how to get into it and what, how hard, or how easy it is, you can learn to, you'll be able to find out. So that's 7:30 New Zealand time on Friday night. So that's it from me, guys. I probably talked too much today. I was going to only do like a 15-minute thing, but no, yeah. Anyway, you know how it is. Thank you for joining me. And, look, if you have an opinion about things, you're welcome to have a different opinion than me. But at the end of the day, don't accept just what's been handed to you. Don't just accept what's there. Look elsewhere as well. And I reckon indie comics is the best place right now to do for good, creative, interesting stories and art. So ka kite anō, be well, be safe wherever you are. Have a good week and hug your loved ones, man. Like I wish I had done that. We lost a brother a couple of weeks ago, a cousin brother, and it's been tough. And you still got to get up there and do stuff, but you still, it's been tough for the entire family, our extended family, everybody. My mom's still in Fiji right now, with my uncle's family, because yeah. So that's why I always say, hug your loved ones if they're close by. Let them know you love them, right? Parents, a lot of times all you see out here right now is how parents are bad, mom and dads are bad. Some are, but at the end of the day, say hello to them, man. Because they brought you into the world, they tried their best, and they're just like you and me. They're human, they make mistakes. But it's up to you to decide how you treat people, not up to them how they, treat you. It's how you treat people. It's on you. It's on me, right? So that's why I was, you're welcome to whatever, but we love your comments with your custom and support for our comic books and for the channel. If you like what we do here, I mean, I'm not the only one, on here. Like I like to invite a lot of people every week to come and share their views. So you don't even hear my opinions, right? Because I find that really, I don't watch channels just to hear that one person's opinion. I like to hear different opinions about things because then I can change my mind about things as well. But thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Ka kite anō. Oh, and by the way, for those who don't know what ka kite anō means, see you next time. Farewell in Maori, our indigenous language here in New Zealand. Thank you for joining us, Niobe Rexillian. Really appreciate it, guys. I should say that. Thank you for being in the chat and conversing with me through each chat. Really appreciate it. I always welcome it. So please continue.